It was the 1992 Barcelona Olympics. A guy by the name of Derek Redmond steps foot to the start of the 400-meter sprint. He had just won his previous heat. He was expected to win this heat as well. The race begins and he takes off. He has the lead, and then something happens. Derek falls to the ground. He's grabbing his leg. He had actually torn his hamstring. But he was determined to finish this race. He was determined to finish what he had set out to do, and so he begins to limp along to the finish line. And then cameras kind of turn, and you see this man fighting his way through the crowd, busting through security, making his way onto the track, and he comes to Derek's side. Derek's dad had come. He put his arm around him, and together they begin to walk to the finish line. If Derek's dad hadn't come to help him, that race would have been really difficult to finish. It would have been painful. It would have been really hard. It would have maybe even been impossible, depending on how much pain he was in. But he had someone to help him on the journey. I actually think following Jesus can be the same as that. You see, you and I, we're not perfect. We have all kinds of flaws. We have all kinds of mistakes that we make. We have all kinds of problems in our lives, things that we're dealing with. And we look at the teachings of Jesus, like, I don't even know if I can do that. I don't know if that's possible. You expect me to follow that? No, there's no way. There's actually one time when a man comes to Jesus and he says, Jesus, what must I do to follow you? And Jesus, at the end of this conversation, tells this man, he says, if you want to follow me, sell everything that you have, give all the money to the poor, and then come follow me. And the guy walked away. The demand was too great. The cost was too high. It seemed impossible to do. And Jesus' disciples, they see this interaction and look to Jesus and said, man, if this guy can't do this, then who in the world can be saved? Is it even possible to follow Jesus? And Jesus says to them, humanly speaking, it is impossible. But with God, all things are possible. And then in one of Jesus' final interactions with the disciples, he begins to tell them that it's actually to his advantage that he leaves this earth. Because when he goes, someone is coming in his place, a helper. And this is what it actually says. This is what he says in John chapter 16. He says, in fact, it is best for you that I go away. Because if I don't, the advocate, or that could mean the helper, won't come. And if I do go away, I will send him to you. I will send the helper to you. You see, Jesus has given us this gift for those who follow him. This helper. God himself is with us, helping us along the journey to follow Jesus. The Holy Spirit helps us follow Jesus. We're not in this alone. And in Philippians, Paul spells out a little bit more what this looks like. He says in Philippians chapter 2, he says, for God is working in you. The Holy Spirit is with you, giving you the desire and the power to do what pleases him. I mean, have you ever had a day where you just didn't feel like following Jesus? You just didn't feel like doing the right thing. You just didn't feel it? Paul tells us the Holy Spirit will give you the desire. Or have you ever had those moments where you're like, I don't know how I'm going to do this. This seems impossible. The Holy Spirit will give you the power. So stop relying on your own strength. Stop relying on your own skills. Stop relying on your own power, on your own will. You were never meant to do this alone, and quite honestly, it's going to be impossible. It's going to be frustrating, and if you do that, you'll probably end up giving up. I've seen so many people who set out to follow Jesus. The demands just seem too high, so they just walk away from it. You see, it's not about all the rules. It's not about regulations. It's about a relationship. And so invest in that relationship with Jesus. Spend time reading from the Bible. Spend time talking to God through prayer. And I know this seems like really basic, because it is. You never outgrow the basics. Spend time investing in that relationship. Get to know the voice of God so that when God speaks to you, you recognize it. When the Holy Spirit is trying to guide you, to empower you, to strengthen you, to do these things, that you're aware. So invest in the relationship. Stop relying on your own power and instead rely on the power of the Holy Spirit. We'll see you next week.